Welcome back to Toy Thursday with Johnny Tiger. The date is May 21st, 2020, week number 11 of the coronavirus quarantine, staying at home, social distancing, and I heard it's going to be over soon. Woohoo! Anyway, let's get to that when we get to that. But today we are looking at action figures while I tell you more about my collection history. In front of the camera, you see this dinosaur looking weird creature. This is the Red King from the Ultraman series of movies and TV shows way back from Japan. To be more specific, this is actually the creature known as the X-Red King, and he came from the Ultraman Fighting Evolution video game from the PlayStation 2. He was released in the early 2000s. I would say maybe 2003. And if you got this kaiju, kaiju means weird monster or creature in Japanese. If you got this kaiju action figure from back in the days, he came with a little card that would allow you to unlock a certain feature or allow you to play the arcade game uh, of the Ultraman Fighting Evolution. But unfortunately, here in North America, most of us didn't get the original figure or the arcade game weren't available over here anyway. I actually snatched this little guy up on an eBay auction for like $3, along with I think 8 other kaiju. So it was a really good deal. Um, Let me turn him a little bit so you guys can give him a view. Description for those of my viewers that are visually impaired or blind. The Red King stands about 5 inches tall and he looks kind of like stocky or fat Godzilla with bullet shaped head and super big arm. If you can imagine crossing Godzilla with a very fat gorilla, that would be what the Red King looks like. He is kind of red in coloration. He is like a lot of the kaiju action figures or toys. He is made of hollow vinyl rather than solid plastic. Uh, from his tiny little feet to the top of his cone-shaped or bullet-shaped head, he is, like I said, around 5 inches tall. And if you measure from the top of his head to his long tail, then he is around 8 inches long. When I was little, these vinyl toys were some of my favorite toys to get for several reasons. One is I actually could feel them before committing to buy them. By that I mean most action figures are hidden inside boxes and layers of cardboard with clear plastic front so you can see what you're buying. But that obviously didn't do me any good as a blind collector. Um, so as a blind collector, it's always a bit of a crapshoot. In fact, I would tell you that that situation has only gotten worse now that I'm buying them from the internet. Because now I really can't tell what they look like until I put in my credit card number and then get them in my hand. And Red King here, unfortunately, was a bit of a disappointment. Why was he a disappointment? Because all the time when I was growing up, following the Ultraman series, Ultraman shows, and listening to people describing the various monsters or kaijus to me on the show, I had this impression that the Red King was a very impressive monster with great, magnificent strength and power. I mean, for most of the time during the show, during episodes, uh, most monsters get killed off by the hero, aka Ultraman, uh, in the episode they appear in. So most of the time, how the episode would go is a new episode would come up, and a new monster would appear, and the Ultraman would go fight the new monster, and then at the end of the episode, Ultraman would kill the new monster, and then we need another new monster for the next episode. Well, that wasn't the case for Red King. The Red King appeared again and again in the Ultraman series. Uh, it's a recurring enemy that was always very strong. So, not knowing what he actually looked like, I had this idea in my head of a very great, magnificent, impressive looking monster of a figure. And then when I finally got him in my hand, like I said, he just kind of like a fat, wrinkly Godzilla with Popeye arms. He's not very tall, and he's not very big. And his design not really all that interesting. Now, if I could feel the action figure before I bought him, I probably would have just left him on the shelf. But since I ordered him from eBay, I really had no way to tell. Back then when I was little, that wouldn't be the case. These vinyl monster figures, most of the time they were sold either packaged in a little Ziploc plastic bag, or they didn't even have a bag around them. They just were hanging on the shelf with a tag around their neck or their arm that would tell you who they were and the price that you would have to pay for them. So these were the action figures, the toys that I actually could put my hands on as a child and make a decision for myself. Does this feel like something I actually want? Is this a design that catches my attention? Is this something that would fit into my collection? I didn't need anyone to describe them to me. I didn't need anyone to that I need to trust uh, before I spend my money. And despite vinyl figures like these, they are relatively cheap nowadays. Back then, they were not very cheap because most of these were Japanese imports. So sometimes a small figure like this, like the Red King, he can go for something like $20 back then. I can tell you, if I spend $20 and I get this guy in the mail and uh, find out that he doesn't really look all that impressive, I would be very angry. But like I said, in the end, I probably only paid like $3 for him. That's not bad. He is articulated at the tail, his gigantic arms at the shoulder. The arms are also articulated in the forearm, and his itty bitty tiny little leg. Like look at the leg. This is my thumb. That's his leg. My thumb is bigger than this guy's leg. It's ridiculous. Yeah, design wise, he was a definite disappointment. Uh, he does fit in with my collection of uh, kaiju or weird monsters, especially fitting in with some of the Pacific Rim uh, action figures and monsters from the Pacific Rim movie. So that's not too bad. The one thing I did with this guy and a lot of my vinyl action figure is you can probably hear that. That sound happens because I filled him up with sand. Now, why did I do that? Because, like I said, these were hollow toys. That's completely hollow inside. So they are very, very light. So when you pick them up, they feel cheap. And when you put them on the shelf, they fall over at the slightest provocation. Like my cat can walk past them and they would fall over. It was really annoying. So what I learned to do was I would heat them up with a hair dryer. You got to be careful with that. Don't get the hair dryer too close to them. Do it nice and slow, otherwise you're going to melt them. So I heat them up with a hair dryer, and then what you would do is you would take a body part and carefully pull it off the figure. Once you soften the action figure up with a hair dryer, it's easy to pull it apart. After you pull it apart, you fill it up with sand, and then you stick the body part back on. Make sure it's attached properly, and then you put the action figure into the freezer so it will harden again. With the sand in the action figure, now it weighs roughly a pound, so it's very stable. And also, when I pick him up, I get the illusion that he's solid and feels a lot more worthy or worth the money in my hand. It's just a little bit of a self deception here. Now, when I was little, this is another reason why I like these kaiju action figures. Aside from the fact that I could feel them before I buy them at the store, another reason I really liked them was that because they were hollow, so they made excellent bath toys. Me and my brothers, we used to be able to stage massive kaiju battles during bath times. Uh, those were some good old fun kid times. Thank you for checking out today's Toy Thursday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Fitness Friday. For now, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a good night.